This is SolOhm update for March 7th, 2016. I got the boards came in today, the version 2 of the, or point 2 of the SolOhm multimeter board. This is the one that has a different current sensor on it. It's using a 0.02 2 milliohm cinch resistor. That's a 4-terminal device. It also, I reworked some of the sense logic on it. If you want to know a little bit more about the details on that, you can look at the video from last week. I'm going to make 2 of these boards, and ends up being about, I don't know, a couple hundred solder joints on here. And what I've been doing in the past is I have a air compressor in here and one of those solder paste dispensers. It's foot switch operated, so I just go through with a syringe and kind of poke stuff, poke it down and put my dots down, and then I hand place my components. I've always wanted to make a pick and place machine. In fact, I started one quite some time ago, but I had a lot of issues with a play in the y-axis, and it's sitting over here in the lab. I also wanted to make a solder paste dispenser. One of the easy ways to do this at this level is to use a laser cutter and just cut construction paper out and just squeegee on your solder paste. I don't have access to a laser cutter. So I started today. The boards came in about 2 o'clock, which is kind of unusual for FedEx. I'll turn on my camera here. What I did decide to do was to go ahead and finish up a different solder paste dispenser for this afternoon. So I have this thing here. This is a CNC machine. This is my first CNC machine that I bought. Got this about 6 years ago, and it was a Kickstarter project called My DIY CNC, and they should have put the letters in their POS. It should really be My POS DIY CNC. This thing is horrible. It's got play everywhere. It doesn't have linear slides. It just has bushings. The bushings are loose. It was machined on a drill press. And it basically is so bad I can't really have a use for it. Well, I did get it set up today, and I fought with this thing for a couple hours, and I finally got some good usable results out of it. I put the spoil board on, then I machined in these peg holes, and I have these 1/8-inch plugs going in to hold my board down. Here's my solder paste right now. It's a syringe with like 6337 solder paste in it, and I'm going to plug the air compressor in on this side. This is running our Gerbil shield. It's back here on the back side. The lighting was horrible, so I put in these LED lights that I had left over from the F-16 project. And then I put in let's see if we can, this is going to show up here. I put a relay in on the side of this board. It's actually wired into the Gerbil board on the coolant output, which is activated through the M8 G code. I'm going to wire that into my solder paste dispenser foot switch. Then the next thing I worked on is I got all the things worked out on this. I played around with this for about 2 hours. Kind of got it working fine. All right, then I went over to my board itself, and that's not a good thing. Let me see here. On my board, here is the board itself. When I put those pins in the board, in my spoil board to hold the circuit board down, the orientation, I rotated the board on the machine here, and that kind of screwed that up as well. So I had to go in and rotate this in the on in the CAD tool. So now I have this orientation on the board, and then I drug it over so that this test point here, this is a through-hole test point. I drug all the components on this thing so that this test point sitting at 0, 0 for the board file. And you'll see this in a minute. I think in version 6 of Eagle, they went to use an XML for the file description, and that's parsable. So you can open that up with tools. So I went and wrote a little program that actually extracted out. It's a Python code, and it is, what is it called? Where did I put that thing? Solder. It opens up the board file and does parsing, and then it goes and figures out where all the pads are, and basically creates the NC file that needs to get run through the board. And if you look at this, is my NC file here. So do G21, which is metric, and then I come through here and I move to the location, and then I turn on the relay. Then I move the Z-axis down, which theoretically is going to leave a spot of solder paste on the pad. Then I dwell for a tenth of a second. Then I unenergize the relay. I move back up again. Then I move to the next pad. So this file here is quite large. It's got about 2,300 lines of code in it. That's a lot of solder joints to do. But let's, then the next thing I got going was, I learned about chili pepper when I was doing my coil winder. So I got the hardware fiddle going on for the Gerbil board. And I fussed with this. I fussed with this a lot, actually, this afternoon. There's some bugs in this, or some peculiarities. I'm not going to call them bugs. It took me a little while to figure out how this thing worked as well. I got that straightened out. So I'll go ahead and show you this thing working. And I don't have my solder paste in there. It's kind of late right now. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll get this thing going, but you'll kind of see this without the solder paste actually getting dispensed. And tomorrow morning I'm going to come in here and actually dispense the paste out, put some parts on the board, and we'll get it going from there. But I'll go ahead and get this thing going, and you can kind of see this thing running. I'll go ahead and stop this thing over here. So it looks pretty good. The x-axis on this thing is okay. The board, the work platform is really crappy. So Z is really inconsistent across the board, and Y has problems as well. Remember, I said this thing was a POS. So I'll be able to get this to work. It does. I'd say it hits it gets near. It gets near enough. Okay. It's certainly better than I am by hand. That's the important thing. I could probably get this whole board done in, I don't know, it'd probably take this thing about 10 minutes to do. Lay down, I don't know, 300 dots. And that's a good thing. So I think that's it for now. This is the SolOhm update for March 7th, 2016. Thanks for watching.